This lesson is part of our 5th grade Social Studies Unit 3, Colonization and Settlement. In this lesson, we will be learning about the development of the Southern colonies. Our learning target is to describe significant developments in the Southern colonies. We will be able to name reasons the Southern colonies developed, locate the Southern colonies on a map, and identify cash crops that helped the Southern colonies to grow. In our previous lesson, we learned about the settlement of Jamestown. We learned that the success of Jamestown led to its growth and the eventual development of the colony of Virginia. Here are some words that will be helpful for us in this lesson. A colony is a territory controlled by another country. A royal colony is a colony that is under the direct control of a king or queen. A proprietor is a person who was given land for a colony by the king or queen and allowed to govern the colony. An indentured servant is a type of servant who had a contract to work for a certain length of time. When the contract was over, the servant was granted their freedom. We'll first learn about the colony of Maryland. Maryland was founded by a proprietor, a person who was given land for a colony by the king. The Calvert family was granted a charter in 1632. They wanted a colony to make money and to be a safe space to practice their religion. In 1633, the first settlers left under the leadership of one of Calvert's sons. Many of these people were indentured servants. The Calverts had learned of the success of the tobacco plantations in Jamestown, so they started their own. Their plantations were successful as well. Maryland welcomed settlers of many religions and passed the Toleration Act. The Toleration Act was the first law in the English colonies to allow all Christians to worship as they pleased. In addition to religious freedom, economic opportunity was another pull factor for many of the Maryland colonists. Up until 1680, indentured servants were the main source of labor for the plantations. After 1680, more and more enslaved Africans were brought to Maryland. The colony of Carolina developed to the south of Virginia. The English settlers who came into this colony had come from Virginia because as the population of Virginia grew, land became scarce. The wealthy plantation owners took more and more land and left little for others. North and South Carolina were created out of 2/3 of the Carolina colony. The southern third became the final southern colony. In 1733, James Oglethorpe and 19 partners were given a charter. They named their colony Georgia, named to honor King George. King George wanted a buffer or safe space between the other English colonies and the Spanish colony of Florida. At this time in England, there were many poor people. To get settlers to come to Georgia, Oglethorpe offered to pay the way for the people who could not pay their debts and had been sentenced to a debtor's prison. The founders of the colony of Georgia hoped that these people would be given a second chance by paying for their passage to Georgia. Georgia became known as a place run by a fair leader. Oglethorpe also would not allow slavery. As a result, Georgia had small farms instead of large plantations. The small farms were easier to run without the labor of the slaves. However, in 1752, the king took back control of the colony. Slavery was now allowed, and large plantations began to develop. The main products that were grown in Georgia were rice, indigo, and lumber. We will now check on our learning targets. This map shows the original 13 colonies. Try to correctly identify the southern colonies on the map by giving the correct name to each number marked on the map. Can you identify which colony is in the space marked number 1? That is Virginia. Look at the space marked number 2. Which colony developed just to the north of Virginia? Space 2 is Maryland. Look at space 3. Which colony developed to the south of Virginia? Space 3 shows North Carolina. Under North Carolina is the colony that developed in Space 4? That is South Carolina. In Space 5 is our last southern colony. That is the colony of Georgia. You are now ready to click Next and take your quiz on this lesson.